Alright, so welcome everyone, glad you can make it. In that horrible snowstorm out there, all those flakes. Don't think it's going to be enough to get out of school tomorrow, guys. So. We're going to talk about the STEM fair tonight. We're going to do an overview of what it is, updates so you know what to expect, what your kids are going to do in school. Both 4th and 5th grade, we'll talk about what they can do at home if they so choose, what this all means in the greater scheme of things, and we'll also talk about research workshops. And yeah, so we'll answer any questions. Before we go any further, I'm Gary Werner. I'm 5th grade teacher, 8th year being STEM fair coordinator, I think. We've got an awesome school. Our kids always do really, really well. It's because of all the awesome teachers we have. And I think 4 or 5 years in a row, our 4th and 5th grade students have come in 1st and or 2nd place at the county fair. And so we kill it. So we do a great job. Let's just get right into it. So, some updates. In 4th grade, they used to teach a unit called Too Hot to Handle. If you have older children, you may be familiar with that. We don't teach that anymore. That's completely gone. What we do is workshop-style lessons in school. And I'll talk more about that in a second. So students, and basically the information for 4th and 5th grade is essentially the same. Students can work in groups of no more than 4. Any more than 4, then there's not really enough for each of them to have a meaningful role. Or they can work independently. We like to encourage the group projects because that's more collaborative, it's more 21st century, it's more realistic too. But if they want to work individually, they can. They're going to do their STEM fair projects in a hybrid style. So what's going to happen is, in school, we're going to instruct them on the scientific method. And that's not optional. They're going to get that as part of our curriculum. Let's say the first unit or lesson was on how to come up with a testable question. So we'll do that lesson together as part of our curriculum. Then the next part would be the students have an opportunity to work on their project in school on that part. Then the next day would be coming up with variables. What are your manipulated, control, and I just forgot what the last one was called. It used to be independent, dependent, and control, but they changed it on. It's now manipulated, responding, and controlled variables. So we teach them about that, and then the next part they would have time to work on in their project. Then we would go to procedure. We do one together as a model, then they work on theirs. So we go back and forth. We do that all the way up through procedure. So they'll come up with the plan. They'll do the research in school, or at least start the research. They'll do the question, the procedure, the variables, and they'll set all that up in school. That's kind of the hard, boring part of the project. And I say boring because they're not doing hands-on stuff. Some kids really love it. And I know Mrs. Conner works doing research, and it's a really important part. So I don't mean boring as bad, but a lot of kids are like, ugh, research. So we do that in school. They have to do the part where they finish the project if they choose to. So once they go through the procedure, we can't test everyone's project in school. We don't have the materials, we don't have the time, and there's so many different projects, we don't want to stifle them. So at that point, we will finish the in-school project. We'll go through the actual doing the experiment. We'll collect the data. We'll graph it. We'll teach them how to do all the other steps. If they choose to complete the project at that point at home, it's optional. Okay, and they would do the project, collect their data, graph, all that. But we'll set them up on how exactly to do that. So they'll have had instruction on that. It's optional if they want to finish a project, which is here. So it's optional, but it counts as extra credit, which is always a good thing. Because you're going to do the work, you need to get credit for it. They have to do the in-school portion, because like I said, that's our curriculum. But finishing it outside of school and entering into the STEM fair is optional. Now, even in 4th grade, it's not too early to start thinking about GT placement for middle school. In 5th grade, that's foremost in our mind, and actually we're kind of starting to go through that right now as teachers. If they do a STEM fair project, that doesn't guarantee GT placement next year, but it's a critical piece of information that we need to make that recommendation as teachers. It's very hard to recommend them if they don't do a project because it doesn't show a whole lot of interest in science. And one of our biggest things is, are they interested in science? Are they excited about it? Because if they're not, then they're not going to be too successful in GT because they really have to have that passion, that drive. So it's highly, highly encouraged that they do a STEM fair project, especially if they're considering GT placement in middle school. Now, if they're not considering GT placement, that's fine. We still want them to do a project because we think it's very worthwhile. It's a lot of work. We're going to do a fair amount of it in school, and they get to do the experiment and put it all together at home. And so that's where you guys come in, and you're going to be assisting them with that, and I thank you in advance, because I'm sure you're going to hear complaints from them, and this deadline and that and I have an 8-year-old son, so I'm starting to get the, Dad, I don't want to do it, that kind of thing. So I'm with you. I hear it. I'm sure I'll enjoy it when his school tells me that he has to do a STEM fair project. The nice thing is I'll have a whole bunch to choose from, because I'll have seen the best of the best every year. So, but I hear you. But I want to thank you in advance for taking that on, because I know it's not a small thing. So that's how 4th grade's going to do it. They're going to. I talked to Mrs. Purcell the other day, and she's already started some of the STEM fair instruction. Mr. Rockhill will start soon. I'm not sure 100% when he's going to start, but that will start soon. In 5th grade, before we go on to 5th grade, are there any questions about 4th grade? Cool. In 5th grade, it's basically the same thing. We used to do a unit called Pendulum Swing as Pendulums Do. We're not doing that anymore, although there is going to be a pendulum station at the upcoming Family Science Night. Just wanted to put a plug in for that. That's going to be on January 26th, and it's going to be awesome, right, Mrs. Appler? Of course it is. Yes, it's going to be awesome. And so we hope to see you there as well. But we will be doing pendulums at that, what am I trying to say? Event. We'll be doing it there. We're going to do the same workshop-style lessons in school. We're going to go all the way up through procedure with them, where they get time to work on their project in school. We'll do the question, the variables, the procedure, the research, all that in school. And then if they want to finish it, they'll do that at home as well. Again, they may work in groups of no more than 4. We encourage the groups because it's, like I said, more realistic, more collaborative, which is what we want them to do. And then if they complete it, they'll enter in the STEM fair, they'll get extra credit, and it'll be great. Okay? So that's how the instruction part is going to go. Okay? So what I want to talk about real quickly before we go any further is this packet. Now, I don't think this packet has come home yet. Last year, this was the first year we're really trying this workshop thing, and I put some dates in here that had like, this part should be done by this date and all that. Well, that caused a lot of confusion, and it didn't really work well because different teachers were going at different paces. So I've taken all those dates out. That's completely up to the discretion of the teacher. Here are the 2 dates, and this will be in the presentation, this will be on the packets on the website. The projects are all due on April 8th. That's non-negotiable. They have to be in on April 8th. The STEM fair is on April 12th. If the kids are going to participate, they have to be here for the judging on April 12th, which is from 4 to 5. There'll be a permission slip that comes home that gives you permission for them to stay and tells us who's going to pick them up. They'll stay in one of the rooms over here, be supervised. We have outside judges who come in. They'll interview the kids. They come back. And then you take them out, and the open house is from 6:30 to 7:30 in the afternoon or evening. That's also the night that we're going to have our book fair open house like we did last year. And so it'll be a really, really good time. But the non-negotiable dates, April 8th is when it's due. April 12th is the STEM fair. Okay? Everything else is flexible based on what the teacher says. That make sense? Try to simplify as much as possible. All right. So look for this. It's going to be different for different teachers. But in this packet are all the rules and regulations, all the parts of the STEM fair project. It gives you some abstracts. It gives you the scoring criteria. I'm not going to go over all of it now. But basically, if you just go through what this says and do everything, you're in great shape. And the teachers will go over this with the kids, and there should be no question as to what they have to do. The most important part is the back page, which is the summary and approval form. When the kids come up with a project idea, they have to fill this out and attach a no more than 150-word abstract that explains what they want to do. They submit that abstract and this form to their teacher. You sign it, your child signs it, and then if it's approved, your child's teacher will sign it and give it back to your child, and then that will say you're good to go on that project. If this is not signed and completed, they can't officially enter the STEM fair. It has to be approved. If the teacher is not sure if it's an acceptable project, they'll ask me. If I'm not sure, I'll ask the Office of Science and we'll get approval. We've never had a dangerous project really that goes through. We've had some really creative projects that I was like, I asked the kid, I'm like, what is this? I had one kid do something about, if I pick a card at random, what's the likelihood that this one will come up? And he was integrating pi, and he had this whole algorithm worked out on a computer program. I'm like, dang. I'm like, what? I set up the chain of command. They're like, looks good. You know, let's go for it. So it was approved. But sometimes, I mean, these kids come up with stuff that just knocks my socks off, which is awesome, which is what we want. So, any questions about the summary and approval? Yes.
If they're working with other students, do the other students need to get put on the summary form, and just
That's
do all four of them fill out?
That's a great question. Each child, even if it's a group project, they each need their parent to sign off on their own form, and then we'll just staple them all together. We would only need one abstract for the group, but we would need one summary and approval form for each child. That's a great question. Thank you for asking. That's up to the teacher. The teacher will give you the date on that. I would say probably after a week or two of when the teacher starts the instruction. But they'll give you the exact date on it.
Can students cross classes, or they have to do it within their class?
That's gonna be up to the teacher and or the grade level. It's what they're comfortable with. It makes it difficult, let's say, like if they're in my class and maybe in Miss Cross's class, and if we're not right on sync, we might be a couple days ahead. I'll talk it over with the 5th grade team. I'll let the 4th grade team know to consider that, and they'll be the ones to make that determination. Personally, I don't see why they can't, because if they're going to finish it outside of school, they're going to have to get together anyway. In my class, what I try to do is I'll set them up with a Google Doc so they can work online simultaneously. I teach them like you can use Skype or FaceTime, things like that to make life easier. I myself do not have a problem with that. That's up to the discretion of the teacher. I'll let them know that they should address that with the students. I don't see why that should be a problem. Any other questions? Those are great questions. Cool. All right, so what exactly is the STEM Fair? We do this because we want the kids to have an exposure to an authentic research and learning piece. And Mrs. Connor's going to talk a little bit about the research piece. She's far more knowledgeable than I am in that. And we want them to do hands-on science. Okay? We don't want to tell them what to do. We want them to be the innovators and really think, what is a solution to a problem that exists? I mean, that's what we're preparing them for anyway in the real world, and that's what we want them to do. So the first step is they're going to choose a topic. I would suggest that they start thinking about it now. I've talked about this with my students a little bit. Start thinking, like, what do you like? What do you want to do? In 5th grade, we've done a biology unit on cells. We've done a weather unit. We've done a geology unit. We're going to do a physics unit. In 4th grade, they're doing a space unit, ecology. These are all big, broad topics. I'll tell you the ones that tend to do very well. Engineering is a really good topic where the kids build something or come up with a creative solution. Invention, like inventing something that has a specific purpose, not just inventing something totally random, but with a purpose. There was a contest the other year to see who could design a robot of some sort that created art. It was really cool, and some kids, like, it just blows you away what these kids can do. So, ecology and conservation, those are also really big ones. If you do something that's green or reduce, reuse, recycle, things of that nature, those are really big kind of concepts that are out there that the kids really enjoy. So I tell this to the kids, hear me loud and clear, harder and complicated is not always best. The best things in science are often the simplest thing. Now, yeah, we do have things like the Large Hadron Collider, which is like 15 miles wide, but no 5th grader or 4th grader is going to be making that. We want things that are simple, things that interest them. So this is a flow chart. This is going to be in that packet, which, by the way, is also on the school website, so you can download and look at it now if you don't want to wait till it comes home for your child, and you can start looking over it. But this just has them, you start here, and then it walks you through, pick a topic. Does your topic have opportunities for hands-on investigations? Yes, no. And you go all the way through this, and it tells you, am I going to wind up doing an experimental project or an observational project? Both types of projects are okay. Most students are going to tend towards the experimental because that's more hands-on, engaging kind of things, but some kids love the observational projects, and that's a very important part of science too. Both are fine. Very few do this one, the observational, just because it's very tedious, it's very methodical. Most kids are going to do that. Both are great. Neither one has more of a chance of winning. It's all about what interests a kid. Do they have a passion about it? I love this. Go ahead and take a second and read that one. The cartoon at the top. I'm just saying, you know, it's true. Yeah, the kids might have some choice words. Hopefully they're not swearing, but they may have some choice expressions that go along with some of the things. I have to write a research report. What's this all about? And we tell them it is a lot of work, but that's what makes it meaningful. Nothing that's ever worth it comes easy. You got to put in the work and you got to put in the effort, and we want to be proud of that. We teach them to persist, and that's really a good life skill. This is important though. If you can just Google your project and come up with a cookbook, that's not the kind of science we're looking for. That's cookbook. That's, you know, follow a recipe. Anyone can do that. You know, I wouldn't say there's nothing online that you can't do, but really we want them to get to an original solution, something creative, something that interests them. Because if I find a recipe, I'm not into it. I'm not looking for projects where you grow a crystal, what shines a penny the best, okay? What happens if you put salt on ice, things like that. We know. If we already know the answer, it's not really worth doing. We want something that's a little bit more meaty than that. So, here's some things I can't do. You can't do an experiment on vertebrate animals, okay? Humans. You can't say, what happens if I give them food or I don't give them food? Okay, this story gets told every year. Someone, not in this school thankfully, wanted to see what happens if I don't give Grandpa his heart medicine, okay? That got shot down really quickly, okay? We're not going to do that, okay? You can't do that. Now, you can observe them. You can observe them out in nature, or I had one kid one year say that they wanted to go out to the intersection at Baker and Bel Air and see how many people ran a red light. And then I asked them for what purpose. They didn't really have one. But that was, I mean, that could work. I had one student who said their dad was a police officer. They wanted to install a no parking sign by Perry High School and see how many kids broke the law. I said, what? She said, don't worry, my dad's a cop. I don't think you can install a no parking sign. So they have some very interesting ideas, but yeah, you can't experiment on humans. You can't do things like exercise. What effect does exercise have on my test scores or things like that? You can't do that. That is science, but it's not 4th and 5th grade science. It's not something that you can do. Like I said, you can observe things out in nature as long as you don't have direct contact with them. Okay? You can't influence them in any way. All right. You can't do any cultures of mold or bacteria of any kind. But I work at Hopkins. I'm, you know, a medical researcher. I have access to the, you know, non-lethal stuff. Great, you do. But the next kid who sees it and gets really interested and wants to do it, doesn't. And so we can't do that. It's also definitely a safety thing. We don't want E. coli or MRSA or anything else floating around in this building or in your house or anywhere else. So we can't see what happens to bread when it gets moldy, how long does this take, and what will stop mold from growing on an orange fastest. We can't do any of that stuff. No projects with weapons. Even if you're a trained professional and you have all the safety protocols in place, you can't do that. Number one, it's a handbook safety violation. Number two, the next kid who sees it and thinks it's the coolest thing in the world may not have that protection, so you can't be doing anything like that. If you're going to do something similar to that, I've had kids do, one was allowable this year. Now, I'm not saying it's allowable this year, it may have changed. Someone did a trebuchet, seeing how like the placement of the weight impacted how far it would throw it, and they just made like a little thing, and they were lobbing marshmallows. I mean, that was an engineering project. That was kind of cool. That definitely got sent up the chain of command, because I knew that was a weapon, but it was approved. I'm not saying it would be approved this year, though. Yeah, so no weapons, no shooting things. All right, that does leave a lot of things still to do though, because you say this to the kids, you're like, no animal experiments, no mold, no weapons, and they're like, oh, triple bummer, and it's like, what's left? It's like the world's over to some of them, but there's still a lot of really good stuff out there. So the first step is coming up with the idea. The second step is coming up with the question. We're going to do that in schoolwork. We're going to teach them how do you make a testable question. It can't be a yes/no. Does Jupiter have rings? Well, yes, it does. You can look that up. You don't have to do a science experiment on that. Plus, you're also not going to be able to go to Jupiter to confirm that. Okay, so there's no way for you to test it. Okay, will the sun come up tomorrow? Yes, it will. Okay, you can't test that. I mean, you can look, but you're not testing. It's going to happen. So nothing that you can look up, nothing that you already know the answer to. You've got to do an experiment or an observation that gives quantitative data. We want to put a number on it. We want to get quantitative data. Okay? All right. And again, no Google search. No Google search for the answer. Okay? We want to discourage that. You can use Google as a launching point to inspire you, but if someone's already done it, we want to get away from that. We want to get more creative, more in depth, and we'll help them with that. All right. So these are just a couple of websites. By the way, this presentation is on the school website. You can access it very easily. You go under Students in STEM Fair and you'll find this. So the grand engineering of challenges of engineering. I've yet to have anyone do this, but there's some really big, like, world-shaping, like, challenges that if a kid could just start to think about some of that thing. It talks about clean water and renewable resources and energy and stuff. If there's anything like that, those are awesome. This is the one we're, at least in 5th grade, we're going to use with this kids in school. We're going to go to Discovery Education. If you go there, it asks them guiding questions, and at the end, it gives them a whole bunch of project ideas. And let me just give a disclaimer. Just because a kid finds a project idea on here does not mean it's automatically approved. It means it could be a starting point, and sometimes what we'll do is they'll come in with this idea they found, and we'll have to tweak it a little bit. But again, we'll be doing that in school. We'll really be helping them out. Okay? But if they get started now, that just saves time in school that we can just keep moving on. All right. Research.
Hello. Can I
Oh yeah. You're clicking.
So, if you don't know me, I'm Mrs. Connor, the library meeting specialist. You've both been here all day, so I'm having brain gaps as well. The research portion, students are exposed in 4th and 5th grade in library media, and as well as in their content areas, to research. The methodology of research. 5th grade has just been talking about copyright and plagiarism. I've been showing them how to use different citation sources, but with this project, they will need to find information related to their approved project proposal. So, and this is if they continue to go with, if they stop with the project in school and they continue not to do the STEM Fair project, then they don't have to worry about this. But if they choose to complete the STEM Fair project, they do need to do this research portion. Different resources, books, material, like databases. We have Baltimore County Public Schools. If you have your child log on to BCPS 1, there is a wealth of databases there for them to use. They can also go on to it's called the OPAC, the online card catalog, and there's a website link for them to use as well. And the kids, I'm going to review this with all of them, but we will be offering 3 after-school research workshops where the kids come with what they've done, and teachers are here to help them find resources so they can take their notes. Because that's the hard part, is that they never know where to look. They're unsure. Is this good? Is this not good? I can't find it. We are a Google generation, you know. Like, we can't Google it, then it must not exist. But we don't want the kids to learn to do professional research using Google. We want them to learn using, you know, as far as their age level, professional databases, these things on the walls, books. So, by teaching them how to access information in that, we're teaching them skills for middle school, we're teaching skills for high school, and then we still have to do research to maintain our license, our teaching license, so life skills. Students, like we said, Mrs. Connor, after school, they can attend 1 research workshop, they can attend 0 if it doesn't work, they don't want to come, or you want them to, they can come back, right? It's fine, it's up to them, it's an option.
Let me just interject real quick a little bit. So they will
It's in
do.
February, I'll send them a letter,
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
What?
right?
You got more to say. I just want to interject.
No, interject,
I know, right?
go ahead.
I love it. So they will do a little bit of research in school. We're going to teach them how to do research, and we will have one whole class period devoted to research. But that's really not going to be enough for the kids who are going to finish to do enough research to really come up with a good hypothesis, which we are now calling a claim. That's the whole point of research, is to understand what should I expect and what do I think will happen so I can make my claim. So one class period isn't really going to be enough for them to generate a very well thought out claim. That's why we're offering the after school research. Also, so they have enough time to develop a research report, which Mrs. Connor is going to talk about right now.
So these research workshops will occur in February. There will be a letter home where it will indicate your approval for them to come, which dates they're coming, so that way we can plan for how many. Really, I mean, it could just be him and I, but we're going to try and gather, some volunteers to assist the kids as well. So there's enough help to go around. The research report has to include all of the following: the introduction, subtopic A, subtopic B. So they have to look at their overarching topic that they're studying, or that they've created their claim for, and they have to research about that topic. But can you think of a good example?
So, like, if you're going to do a paper airplane design, which is what we're going to do in school, you'd have to research, like, how does design impact, aerodynamics? How does weight impact? What is lift, drag? You just have to understand how things fly. And so that would be what your research report would be on. Now, when we say research report, people think like long, lengthy, my gosh, I did this in college, what the heck is going on? Okay, these are 9 and 10-year-olds. We're looking for a couple of paragraphs. And we're going to go over that with them, because some of them will give us, some of them are awesome. They like I said, they blow you out of the water with what they do. Some of them will come back with a multi-page report, and it's all tabulated and collated and stapled, and it's like 12-point font, and it's immaculate, and it's awesome. But that's above and beyond. We're looking for 2 to 3 paragraphs with the bibliographies. That's what we're looking for.
And the bibliography is my the kids. We've talked extensively in all grades. We talk about like how we don't steal, plagiarizing, like we want to copyright. So the kids have been taught in different levels how to cite their sources and create that bibliography, which is an important part of research, giving credit where credit's due. So they will, if they need additional help with that, I'd be willing to help any of the kids during library media when they see me, but also during research. Or if your kid's really stuck, you can always email me and say, look, if you're not sure how to cite this, can you help us walk through this? We've got this resource that they just contact me, and I can help you find the legwork. I'll work with your child. We don't want it to be anything stressful or anxiety inducing, so that way they walk away feeling bad about science. It's supposed to get them excited. Yes, hi.
Hi, can they use regular, science citations within it?
So the format for the bibliography, when you say regular science citations, that's what, yeah. Okay, so I teach the kids MLA citations, but I'd be fine with APA.
Either one's fine.
We just need a citation. We're
Yeah.
not going to be that
That's
picky.
something that he's going to use next year too.
Yep.
That's when they go to middle school and high school and they do their English research projects, which is where they mostly focus their research, is MLA format. So that's what the library office has. But if they go, once they know, right, Hayden, you with me? Yeah, he's right there. Once they go on to EasyBib, which is the citation generator, it's not like back when we were kids, when we had to look everything up and go back and forth from the paper that your teacher gave you with a list of things you had to cite. Now the kids can go to this citation generator at easybib.com and type in the title of the book, and it shows you a list, and you click on the book, and then it gives you the citation. or type, like copy and paste the website.
It's
Click
not
a
fair.
button and
It's totally
gives you
not
the
fair.
citation, and all they have to do is copy. It's amazing. Where was this even like 10 years ago when I was in grad school? Where was this?
But if you do
So they can send it
APA,
any which way.
if you do APA, you do Chicago, you do what? I don't care. As long as it's cited. I mean, sometimes, now we don't encourage this, but sometimes a kid will just put the website.
And that's highly discouraged.
We don't want that, but at least they're trying. We're not going to
They're
disqualify
4th
them
and
for
5th
that.
grade.
Yeah.
So that is definitely, you know, the expectation levels are of 4th and 5th grade, and them being in that learning and growing process.
Right.
Shall we, any questions on research? Yes. Beth.
Is there one report per group or one is each student have
It's one per group. One per group.
You just learned something new. Okay. Any other questions?
It's not necessarily related to this, but how much parent assistance, I mean, like, where do we cut them off? I mean, like, because I know, like, some parents will want to do the project and
Yeah, don't do that.
won't do anything.
Yeah, don't do that.
So I'm like saying, what's our level of, what are we here to?
Yeah, and that's part of why the county moved to this model where we're doing at least a good portion of it in school, so that the kids will have done the procedure, which is the bulk of it, without actually doing the project in school, because we want the kids to really experience that. But you're right, some parents, you can tell it's a parent project. When the kid comes in and you ask them to read this word and they don't even know what it is, and then you ask, why do you do it? Well, because my mom thought it was a good idea. Oh man.
And
Yeah.
isn't part of the STEM fair evaluation like interviewing the child about
Correct.
their project? So
And that's actually a good portion of the judging phase is interview, and I think that's worth at least 25, if not 50 points of the judge score. Can the kid talk about it? Do they understand it? Are they excited about it? You know, or is it like, oh, I did this because you know. Of course, if that's all they're going to give us, we'll work with it, but we want them to pick something they're interested in. Now, having said that, to answer your question, how much should you involve yourself? Spell checking stuff for them, making sure it's printed out if they need to, bringing them to the research workshops, cutting out stuff, getting supplies, encouraging them. I mean, can you help them with some? Yeah, you can help them with it. Just like with homework. You don't want to do their homework for them, but you can guide them questions and give them some support and say, you know, I noticed this may be a little off. You might want to think about this. We definitely want to discourage you doing it because this is for them to learn. And sometimes failure is the best way to learn. So if it doesn't work, we teach the kids all the time. Failure is part of science. If you fail, that's how you learn. In fact, I've got it hanging up on my wall on a poster right now that says failure is always part of the process. But then it says, so is learning from failure. So if they don't get the results they expect, that's okay. I know as a parent, you hate to see them fail because you're like, oh, we did all this work, and then they get upset and it didn't work. But then as teachers and as parents, we'll use that as a learning opportunity to say, well, why do you think it didn't work? What would you do differently next time? That's actually one of the questions we ask. What would you do differently next time? Oh, it worked great, and I'm going to test this out, or man, that flopped, and I'm going to try this. Both are acceptable. So there's not like a formulaic answer to that. It's really just,
use your judgment.
yeah, just support them. If they're really struggling, email us, and we'll touch base with them. All the teachers are here, even when it's the part where they're at home working on it. We're still here to support them in every step. So even though we may not be doing the experiment or putting the board together for them, we're still here to help them at any point in the process. That's also why we have our STEM fair after spring break. It's not so that they do it all during spring break and, oh my gosh, we got to get it done. But that gives you enough time, like, hey, we got a few days off. Maybe we can just finalize it. We can take a deep breath. It's all good. We like to give them just that little bit of extra time where they don't have anything else school-related to do to just focus and finish up. So does that kind of answer your question? Cool.
Any other questions about the research or anything that we talked about thus far? Let's look ahead, Mr. Werner.
Let's look ahead. All right. Don't panic. I'm going to tell this to the kids too. Don't panic. Okay. Teachers are going to start teaching the STEM Fair workshop lesson soon. Some teachers may have already started. You're going to be hearing a lot more about it. We will give them all the instruction they will need to understand the scientific method. That's our goal. STEM fair projects are due in school by April 8th. That gives the teachers time to grade it before the STEM fair, because we do have to grade it for extra credit. Okay? You will get that grade back. Okay? You will not get a judge's score back. The judge's scores remain anonymous. Okay? The STEM fair is on April 12th. The judging is from 4 to 5. Your child must stay after school so that they can be judged. They will go home at 5 o'clock. This will all be on a letter that comes home. They come back, hopefully for the open house from 6:30, 7:30. If something happens and they absolutely can't be there, it's not the end of the world. We would like them to be there, of course, but it's not the end of the world if they can't make the open house. We will have, I've already confirmed, Mr. Rowland from the high school who teaches physics. He's here every year, does lots of hands-on stuff. Kids love it, I love it. He was my teacher, which is crazy to think, but he was actually my teacher. Love that man, he's awesome, he'll be back. Captain Tim from Star Lab will be here with his telescopes, his rockets, his space boat, all that kind of stuff. He'll be back. PTA is going to provide refreshments. It's going to be great. And we'll have the book fair open house, which is also going to be awesome. So what's not to love? We'll have an airplane design contest where you can win a prize. And yeah, it's just going to be
Now the
it's gonna be
winners are
amazing.
not announced that evening, are they?
Yeah, we don't announce the winners that evening because the judges leave at 5 o'clock. And by that point, I'm completely frazzled, and I just don't have enough stamina to tabulate all the scores right away. I do like to eat something so I don't like faint. And you know, I'll eat, I'll go home, get freshened up, come back for the open house, so I'm all ready for that. So I don't tabulate them right away. We announce the kids the next day in school. That way they're there with all their friends and their classmates. We make a big deal about it, and yeah, it's really cool. They get a big ribbon and all that kind of good stuff. If they do win, I will be in contact with the winning child's parents, and that child obviously, and they'll have the opportunity to represent our school at the county fair. Don't quote me on the date, I think it's May 13th or 14th. I believe the 14th is the STEM fair, the 13th is the Safe Racer competition for 3rd grade. Don't quote me on that. I think that's right though. It's at Parkville High School, and like I say, we do awesome there every year. I mean, we walk away with the first and second place. Well, not the child walks away with the first and second place prize. They do a great job because our teachers are amazing here. So they really, really do an awesome job. So here's what we'd like you to walk away and start doing. Get your child to start thinking about ideas. Start going on websites like that Discovery one that I linked to. And like I said, this presentation's on the school website. You go to Students, STEM Fair, and the presentation's right there. Go to that Discovery website, go to the library, check out what are these archaic things called? Books. Check out, I love books. I do that with the kids all the
If you
time.
walk into the public library, I mean,
Oh, they've
they
got
will,
lots
and you
of
say,
stuff.
I'm doing this STEM fair project now, they love it, they love it. And
They're great over there.
They will walk you through and your child through and help you find resources as well. And they also have databases, so if you go onto the public library's website, there's a whole section of databases like we have World Book Student, and we've collaborated with them, so there's not overlap. So what they offer there for the kids for their research, it's different now. So you get like twice as many reliable, safe resources for your children online.
Just a disclaimer, just because you found it online or on Discovery or in a book does not automatically make it approved. It still has to be approved by the teacher. Worst case scenario, we'll tweak it a little bit, we'll help them do something similar, but just tweak it a little bit. And remember, complex is not best. It might be cool, and if you want to do that, that's up to you, but we encourage simple, creative kind of things because that's what science is about, finding an efficient solution to a problem that exists. And the STEM fair packets I showed you earlier will go home soon, and that'll be up to the discretion of the teacher. Okay, so 2 non-negotiable dates. April 8th is when the projects are due. April 12th is the open house and the judging. Okay, and that's our STEM fair. Any other questions? I want you to meet the snowstorm. It always snows in these movies. It
The
always
12th
snows.
is a Tuesday.
Yes, it is a Tuesday. It's a Tuesday. All right, want to put one last plug in for the Family Science Night. That's on January 26th. What was the start time? 6:30? 6:30 to 8. If you haven't registered, please do so. There's a link on the PTA website, I believe, for that. And there may have been a paper that came home, I'm not 100% sure, but it should be an awesome time. And
Now the teachers are running the same.
yes, we've got quite a few teachers running it. Yeah, it should be awesome. It should be really, really good. All right, well, if you don't have any questions, I appreciate you all coming out. Thank you very much. And look forward to seeing the project.
You ready?
Yeah.